And first thing that came to my mind is, yeah, I missed out on the cock. And that's why I find myself in this position of having to transition. Um, and obviously that had some serious effects on my life, and dysphoria and feelings of inadequacy, which I wouldn't have experienced if I'd grown up as a male. What else? I was thinking about this topic last night, and it was interesting because it kind of caused me to reflect back on my childhood and growing up and adolescence, and growing up in the body that I was, and realized that I kind of was aware that when I was a little kid, I thought I was a boy, and just it took my mom telling me, like, basically you can't wear just shorts to the pool, you have to wear like a swimming costume or something, for me to realize, like, when she was like, oh, because you're a girl, and I was like, what? I just thought I was one of the other little boys, and I was just sort of reflecting on that, and then how what happened during adolescence, which is that kind of pivotal time of self definition and identity and all of that, and the fact that at that time I was those sort of adolescent milestones of getting your first period, and you know having to go and get your first bra and all of that stuff, that apparently, like, the way that my mother at least presented it was as this kind of female celebration, and I remember the way that other girls at school would talk about it was like this awesome kind of event that was like this exciting milestone in development and made you more of a woman and all this stuff, and I just found it absolutely traumatizing and horrific. And why did I find it so horrific? Well, obviously because it wasn't the way I expected my body to develop. I think I was always waiting for um, me just turning into a boy, and it just kept going in the other direction. And the more it did, the more distressing it was. And I just pretty much would try to suppress that stuff a lot. Didn't like talking about it at all. Hated, the process of having to go and buy any of those kind of products, or associated with femaleness, bras, tampons, whatever. That whole thing was just hideous to me. And the, you know, the I just, yeah, I was very kind of, I just kind of repressed all of that, and it was very much like almost this private shame I felt like. And this topic caused me to reflect on these experiences, and so it's a good one. Um, the other thing is that I think in that period of adolescence, where you're growing up and socializing with, generally speaking, others of the same gender as you, and learning, how to behave and how to relate and who you are. I think that next to most of the women that I knew, I mean, that's the other thing. When I went to high school, my mother sent me to a private all-girls school, which was, yeah, like kind of good in some respects because, I got quite a bit of action in high school because I was in a girls' school. School camps were pretty fun. I was like sexually active from the age of 13, so that was cool because it was like being a boy at an all-girls school. Like, it's kind of like a dream come true for a straight guy. But in other respects, in terms of learning those kind of cues and stuff, I guess all I ended up feeling was that I was just so different to all of these other girls, that compared to them, there was this dramatic kind of contrast. They like these things, I like these things, and I kind of remembered that I think my way of coping with that was to be involved in a lot of sport. I was really into anything that was kind of energetic. I did every kind of sport you can imagine. and I was pretty competitive about it. And then I think also like acting, I was really involved in acting for a long time. That was my life dream, to be an actor. And and I think that again was these sort of fields in which you could play against the cast. You know, I could play male roles, especially in all girls school until they kicked me out in the 10. And I went to co-ed school. But you know, I could play these male roles, and I could be that person I wanted to be on stage. I could also participate in sports, and I think that those sort of things were my way of dealing with the fact that I was so different to everyone else, and this sort of startling contrast, and my sense of feeling alone and isolated in a way because of the fact that I just didn't have anything in common with people that I was at school with. I mean, I had friends. There was no problem there. But I think I was very angry in high school because of this fact. When I went to the co-ed school, a lot of those kids were kind of different to the other kids, and it was a drama school, so like there was lots of kids who were really outgoing and had struggled with stuff in their lives. So I felt like I found a few more kindred spirits, and I started to kind of figure myself out and etch out like an identity for myself that seemed to fit me a lot better. But it still wasn't the right fit exactly. I think I spent a lot of time trying to take on these different, manifestations in order to sort of fulfill what was ultimately my sense of wanting to be in a male body and wishing that I had been born boy. I can say, of course, there are positive aspects to growing up as female. My mother is a feminist anyway, but she instilled in me a great understanding and respect for the position of women in society and the need to equalize that position. I think I have, because of my experience of growing up as female, I've developed a deep understanding of females in society and of sexism and the way it works, and that is something that a lot of men, at least certainly, don't have first-hand experience of. So, I guess, so I see that as a positive thing. I think that being born the way I was enables me to relate to women in a lot easier, in a lot better way. So, that's positive for my relationships and friendships, I think. I understand women and what motivates them in many ways that I guess a lot of cisgendered men don't, or struggle to understand. So living on both sides of the fence, I suppose, gives you this kind of like shamanistic, like mystical understanding of the world in a way. Like how many people really get that opportunity to see what gender is and how it functions in society and what's real and what's not, what's nature and nurture. Take all that apart and look at it is something that this process of transition has given me that ability. So that's pretty interesting, I think. And but of course, all of this is what you make of it. I think I could focus on the things I missed out on growing up as female, or I could look at it as a positive gift or as something that I need to do something with that insight, with that understanding. I need to create or build or reflect on it in some way. So as to add to society's understanding. So, I think there's probably something in that I should probably take more notice of than I am at the moment. So I guess there's a few of the things that I think about having grown up the way that I have. I mean, certainly can say for myself for sure that if someone gave me the option to redo it, I pretty much would redo it as men, because I had a lot of struggle and a lot of pain in my life because of this issue, and I will continue to have struggles and issues with dysphoria and discomfort because of these issues, and so like, whereas I'd like to give out the message that, you know, we should be happy as we are, I think there's something to be said for honesty and the fact that, yeah, like, honestly, my wishes are, I wish I was just born into the right body and I didn't have to go through the struggle. Like, why does it have to be me that has to go through that? But at the same time, like, it is me, and I'm not going to whinge and cry about it. I'm just going to get on with trying to do something with that knowledge and understanding that this experience of life in this body has brought me. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, like, curious to hear other guys' comments on this. I think there'll be probably quite a broad response because I think a lot of people don't quite feel exactly as I do. But anyway, I hope everyone's well.